Hey, welcome back, everybody. You know that is Browns Only, your host, Rudy, going to bring you what has been going on with the media coverage of Shadeur and the Browns lately, because this is Browns Only. But we will delve into some other things today because, for example, there have been a recent rash of ESPN firings. So they want to spend just a little bit of time touching on that before the end of the show. But at the top of the show, as we often do around this time, Big Rube Promotions and Entertainment would like to start off by having this Browns Only show start off with the latest Browns news. So the Browns did, within the past few days, sign a cornerback because we talked about the cornerback depth on earlier shows. And also, unfortunately, I wasn't the player that was signed, right? So they didn't want a 5'9, 150, 45-year old uh, cornerback out of UC by way of the University of Phoenix. I am not the player that was signed, but Damari Mathis was signed by the Browns earlier this week. And notice how I just point shade, I'm actually 29. But anyway, Damari Mathis was signed by the Browns. You look for him to maybe compete for, say, like the fifth corner spot, after guys like, of course, Denzel Ward. Uh, then you got Tyson Campbell. Then you got Miles Harden. Then you got Miles Bryant. And somewhere around there with the Tyron Herons and a guy who just got dropped off, but possibly temporarily due to this move, of signing Damari Mathis, who was formerly with the Broncos, missed most of last season. Dom Jones was waived with the injury designation, basically in a corresponding move, right, to make room on that roster. Today, we want to touch on a variety of topics, some which have to do with, I would say, like the other media outlets' coverage of Shadeur Sanders in particular, because at this point he has become so much of a, I want to say, like pulverizing or polarizing topic with so many. For me, it's something that I didn't want to always dominate the show just talking about Shador, because there's so many intriguing storylines and competitions along this Browns roster, not just the quarterback position. However, I keep getting drawn back to it like a moth to a flame because of Rex Ryan, because of whoever insert, bad mouther. A lot of times that may not have, really legs to stand on. We'll talk about the Rex Ryan comments in a moment. But first, let me play this little snippet from Colin Cowherd, who is a FSN analyst. And we'll see what he has to say about what he's thinking or feeling or hearing today. It's not today, but at that time, it was July 23rd today, but at that time, how he's feeling about Shador this offseason. And this clip never wants to play when I need it to play. And the gist of what Colin said basically was that, thanks a lot, Colin. He basically disingenuously kind of saying that Shador will be like the first celebrity influencer quarterback where it doesn't matter if he wins or not on the field, because this is not a Super Bowl team, this year's Browns, and nobody's really looking forward to the Browns doing that or thinking that they can, right? So it's almost like, well, as long as he's got people that are, engaged and creating engagement and excited about seeing him play or seeing him in competition or hearing about him, that it doesn't really matter if he wins or not. The main point I just wanted to adamantly disagree with is the game, Colin. Like, winning is always, Cloud Monken even said that. Like, again, disingenuous. I know I didn't get the quote. I apologize for that. But man, F what he's talking about. In fact, F what Rex Ryan is talking about, because Rex Ryan was talking about, he said something along the lines of Shadeur. You know what? You know what Rex Ryan said? I just thought about it. Rex Ryan told Shadeur to shut up and dribble. I just want to let that sit in for a second. That's not what he said. I'm gonna quote him out of context because I think it's relevant, and I think that what Rex Ryan did was out of context. He's not viewing all his context clues. He's just coming to the conclusion. Like a lot of times, I think that people will find basically evidence to support their arguments with talking about like EPA, things like that. Whatever your assumption coming in, that's what you're going to find to support that argument, right? Evidence for that, because we all have biases, but Rex Ryan's biases against Shadeur with his like basically post on social media, talking about how Shadeur needs to focus basically just on football. And I think to a certain extent, these two quotes or dynamics of what they said about Shadeur, they are very interested in how they interact with each other. Basically, on one hand, what Cowherd said about him being an influencer quarterback and it not really mattering if you win or lose. And then also the other dynamic of what Rex Ryan was saying, that he needs to just focus on football and not focus on like celebrity endorsements. Do you know how disingenuous that is on so many different levels, Rex Ryan? I'm gonna tell you why. For one, uh, do you know that Shador made about, I would say, I would say a little bit more than 1 million in base salary for his NFL salary last year. But we did see that he set like the all-time endorsement, um, I don't say record, like at 17 million worth of salary based off of like jersey sales and again, basically merchandising, right? So it was like a merchandising share that he shared with the league that he got 17 million off of, but only made $1 million in salary. Are you telling him to turn down that money? And in fact, to that, I would say, Rex Ryan, turn down for what? Turn down for what? Get your money, man. Is what I'm saying, right? I don't. That was, whoo. That was some energy right there. Like, no, Rex Ryan, you were probably doing endorsements. In fact, you were making a lot of bold proclamations when you were coach, and you were not shying away from the spotlight. And that's why you're still in media now, even after your coaching career. Because I would say, I think what you're doing is you're deflecting on Shadeur because you are a subpar coach yourself. You are thinking because your father was a coach and that's how you got your foot in, that you're putting that on Shador, that he does not have the talent, right? Or he's not putting in the work. Maybe you weren't putting in the work. Maybe you were given opportunities and you weren't as deserving. And you're, I think, putting that on him a little bit, right? Maybe that's too close to home. I think that it's definitely the case, right? That the way Shador is being covered in the media is disingenuous. I don't do this often, like where I'll take a show and use a big chunk of it really to just, you know, talk about like Shador, how he's covered. Again, I feel like let the play do the talking, right? And so for me, I feel like I like to think of myself as someone who uh gives it straight down the middle, right? So there's, for example, as Shador and Derek compete in the off season and work out, I wouldn't say it looks less like a competition, but certainly there is a bond or a kinship that those two have. And we've seen that last season. And don't forget, there was a point in his career where Derek Deshaun Watson was a top 5, 10 NFL QB, right? Early in his career. So I don't think as much about regaining that form himself, but whatever is left in there, I think he's trying to get as much of that as he can. But by proxy, I certainly think that that helps make Shador better. And I do like the way that these guys are pushing each other in a healthy competition, but also where it's not cutthroat to the point to where they feel like they can't help each other. Now, when we talk about cutthroat, this media game here, right? It is kind of cutthroat, right? So that is why I'm not gonna lie, me myself and I am independent. But one of the things that's happened is ESPN has a tradition now, like none other, almost like golf, right? Like of letting go a good chunk of their media personalities, maybe hot take personalities, kind of each year, right? As they kind of go into the football season or into the last quarter, a couple notable basically drop offs, right? Of people who were working at ESPN was Ryan Clark, who basically, I mean, he basically got fired on air. And For example, Ryan Clark, along with like Cam Newton, they're on other shows as well. I don't really feel bad for these guys. Ryan Clark, for example, was with ESPN for 10 years. So that's quite a long time. We know that he had a solid playing career for like the Steelers as well. So hey, no love lost there with him getting let go. But also, there's long time, media members like Carl Ravitch, right, who were let go. And to me, it does make me harken back to a time I remember when Michael Smith and Jamel Hill were two ESPN anchors I really enjoyed. And they had a like a hot take show on their numbers never lie. And when they got dropped off, they went on to other platforms as well. Like Jamel, for example, I think she maybe even still works with the athletic. But what I'm getting at too is it's not like I don't think that, for example, we talk about how they lost their positions, that they necessarily got caught off guard. It does seem like some of these were kind of maybe abrupt. I'm sure there was some kind of writing on the wall, with some of the anchors that were let go with ESPN. But I just say that to really emphasize the fact that there is a benefit to having these independent platforms, to being independent, kind of doing it on your own, not having to worry about if for example, whatever it is that you're doing, it's good to have like certain backup plans. For example, you look at some of the other people that won't have their contracts renewed or got laid off. Stefania Bell was one. She used to be in the media a lot with the injury updates. Bart Scott, Charles Davis. Don't forget, I did want to touch on, ESPN and NFL actually have merged now to where they're one conglomerate. And the NFL has a 10% ownership stake in ESPN. So, you look at some of the, like, for example, the NFL analysts like Peter Schrager that have been brought over to ESPN, but it did force out in that merger some longtime analysts like Charles Davis, to me, who is an excellent analyst. He definitely knows ball, and you hate to see that. For example, you'll see him pop up on another platform or whatnot, likely, right? But he's got so much time in the game that Charles Davis is probably pretty set, but I like to hear Charles Davis break down the game, just like I know you guys like to hear me break this sports talk down, this football talk down. Hey, we talked about how, and I wanted to tie all this together. We talked about how Colin Cowherd, and again, I apologize that I couldn't get that clip earlier in the show for you. Want to play that little snippet there, but like we talked about how basically again Rex Ryan, how he looked at it with his hot take, if you would, on how Shadeur just needs to basically shut up and dribble and focus on more of the on field and the team and the we, as opposed to like trying to get money from endorsement deals, right? Or trying to basically get his bag. Let's try this clip from Colin one more time, see if this plays. All right, so it's a little less about wins, but a little bit more about who you are and who you connect with, right? Man, it's always about wins, Colin. To me, that's the mentality that I'm trying to get rid of. Now, I would say there's one little part that Rex touched on that he had an instant a little peon of truth to it, where he said, it's really about the team. It's really about the work. Now, Rex, what you're not seeing is where Shadeur is practicing 4 or 5 times a day, where he's going and he's throwing free camps for kids. Now, I'm not going to lie. There is something about uh, again the young man that is number two, number 12, that is a little polarizing because I had an experience where obviously I have my children and Shadeur, he is somebody who, for example, I think that there's the aspect that Colin was touching on to where he's very popular, right? But I think that's what makes a lot of people not identify with him. However, I will say for like my kids and that generation, I know I had played Shadeur's song, one of his songs in the car one day, and my daughter said, "Oh, he's cute." I said, "What?" I said, "Man, what?" That was my first reaction. What? But at the same time, there is an aspect of this is the kind of guy you want leading your team, or on a separate type of thing. You wouldn't mind if your daughter says, hey, I'm hanging out with this guy, hey, he seems like a good guy, and it's not because of his name, Rex Ryan, right? Like where you got with your name, it's because of the work, right? Because at the end of the day, the game is always the game, Colin. It's always to win, man. Because I'm gonna tell you what, if he's not winning, guess what's going to happen next year in the 27 draft? The Browns got 2 first-round draft picks. You already know what they're gonna do. What I'm gonna tell you right now is Shadeur Sanders could be the bridge to that young quarterback, even if that does happen. But at the end of the day, right, the way you stave that off, Colin, it's not media influence and being mad popular. It's winning games. The popularity comes with the winning. And then, like, Rex, what are you not getting about franchise quarterbacks being popular? Franchise quarterbacks getting endorsements. Maybe there was an aspect of that with Baker Mayfield too, right? Where it's like, he's doing the progressive in the stadium, he's doing it too much, right? Now, again, I think that there's got to be, like with a lot of things, there's got to be a balance, right? Why do you think right now Cleveland's on zero dark 30? Like Shador is starting to do a little bit more as we lead up to camp starting in about a week, right? Rookies are reporting like now. But why do you think there has been so much kind of media silence or not giving a lot of availability other than that one day that Shador and Derek stepped to the mic? It's because they've been in grind mode, man. So Rex Ryan, we talking about the we and not the me, or Colin Cowherd, when you're talking about the it doesn't matter about wins. It always matters about wins. It always matters about team. And you know what else it matters about? Being a leader and your intangibles, right? Some of those intangibles that can't be measured. Your leadership, you're throwing free camps for kids, you're going to do basically outreach in the inner city, in the community where, let's be honest, a lot of these same people we're talking about, whether it's local media, national media, they'd be scared to go in those neighborhoods. They're not going in there, period, without like mad security. I ain't even gonna say that I blame them. You would get jacked. You do not have that same effervescence, right? You should not feel safe in that scenario. That's not the point, right? When we talk about some of these layoffs at ESPN, for example, right? Layoffs but I don't feel all that bad because when I see what's good. What's good is a young man again trying to win a job, working hard, practicing 4 or 5 times a day, sweating, man, looking like he's getting his body in good physical shape, peak physical shape, top physical shape. going in there to compete to take hold of the job. And because he's popular, because he's getting money outside, getting money, that's why he's not working hard. But we see that he's working hard. We see that he's giving. But maybe he needs to work hard. No, you don't have a point. It's still about winning, Colin. It's still about grinding. It's still about the team, Rex. And what has he done to show you that he's not about team? Right? What? Have some camera shoots, right? He's been there. He's been at the facility. He's been working. He's been working with Derek, right? They've been in Miami. They've been having the camps even before the official activities and camp starts. So again, when I see some people like again, Ryan Clark was actually somebody who was I think really always a strong personality. So don't get it wrong. And not only defending maybe Shadeur, but really always having like the community, right? So again, even though he was affiliated with the Steelers and a former Steeler, don't get it wrong. The main thing is going to be the main thing. Now, Colin, winning is the main thing, but also for me, the community, right? Looking out for us. And it's not even always about looking out for to me for us, because I don't mind looking out for whoever does the work, right? I just look for people who got that similar work, that how I feel and how I be getting it in. If you have a similar mind state, it don't matter if we have the same skin color, complexion, or hue. But at the same time, if I see you working against me or mine, and I would say me or mine, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's nephew. That's what I gotta step in and be like, nah, y'all violating. So, again, Ron Clark, he was cool. That's why he gonna be good. Cam, he was good. He knows the game. That's why he's gonna be good. But Rex Ryan, in fact, is Rex Ryan still at ESPN? Was he on the list? I mean, he shouldn't be used to getting dropped off. You know what I mean? Like, it's been a while since he was coaching in the league. I ain't never coached in the league. I have tried to apply for the Browns not only head coach position, but other head coach positions. But also remember again, I told you earlier again that I'm not the corner that they signed. That will not ever happen. So while I do give you accurate information on this show, sometimes it can borderline on silly slash delusional. There are a couple other little tidbits. I guess we'll bring you for the end of the show, man. There was something that I wanted to touch on with you, like a lot of moves get made during the off season, and sometimes we mention them separately, but we really don't go into I would say like a lot of details surrounding them at the time. Just to summarize, here are the largest off-season deals that were signed around the NFL this offseason. So Patrick Mahomes, he's already on actually a huge, like at the time, it was like a $400 million contract. That contract now is at 8 years, $504 million. So you can say it's an extension for basically a deal he already had in place. Jackson Smith and Jigma signed the big contract extension as well with the Seahawks. 4 years, $168.6 million. Of course, the receiver for the Seahawks last year had a breakout year, over 100 receptions. Will Anderson, arguably right behind, like, say, Miles Garrett, the best defensive end, especially young defensive end in the league right now. The Houston Texan signed a 3 year, $150 million deal extension this year as well, this offseason. And Drake London, the big bodied receiver out of USC for Kevin Stefanski now in that Atlanta offense, catching passes from some left hand phenom like Tua or Penix this year, coming to a East Point, to a hood near you. So Drake London got a big extension there. I want to say Pitts got paid too, but Drake London 4 years, $141 million. Then Trent McDuffie, he signed his biggest deal with the Rams. I believe that he was traded from the Chiefs. But he did sign that big 4 year, $124 million extension. Again, he was traded for that draft pick. A couple other things I wanted to talk about. Well, it's just one other thing, really. Last week we talked about some guys who are not likely to make the roster who have been around for the Browns for a little bit. I got three names for guys that I wanted to say that have a good chance of making the roster, and we'll see if at least two of these guys can maybe stick around on the 53 at different points this year. So it's likely going to be some undrafted free agents, right, or late draft picks. First one is Logan Fano. So I got asked about that from comments from the show, and the main topic today, talking about the ESPN firings, that was a viewer inspired topic. So if you ever have any topics you want to bring up on Browns only, you just basically you could put a comment in the chat. Definitely make sure you like and subscribe, like the video, like this video, subscribe to the channel. You can always leave me topics. You can hit me up at 937-355-2137. You could also go to Dollar Master Yoda 1980. Show me some cash love, because you show your love by the way you pay me. And also, I never said this on the show before, but you can put it in my hand and put it in my pocket. All right, that's another thing, not really football related, but sometimes you have to put it in my. All right, I ain't gonna just keep saying it. I ain't gonna word it out. You know where to put it. But also in the Dollar Master Yoda 1980 Cash App is where you can put it. Logan Fano. Now he's a guy, obviously Spencer Fano. His brother was first round, or is the first round draft pick, the offensive tackle, left tackle for the Browns. But now Logan Fano, he's interesting because he's a tackle for a lost guy coming out of Utah. We talked about him on previous shows, but it's interesting dynamic right now at the defensive end, because traditionally, again, this position's been running about 4 or 5 deep on the roster, and I would say like there's three guys who are guaranteed to make the roster, right? So we talk about Verse, we talk about Isaiah McGuire, we talk about Wright. Those three guys are guaranteed to make it. Obviously, Wright just got the extension last year. Obviously, no more Miles Garrett. So those three guys guaranteed to make it. But after that, then we're talking about who's that fourth guy, right? So Cam Thomas no longer with the team, right? But that's where, say, example, Fano is battling out with a guy like Okwara, right? Who was around last year, or also Tyreek Sapp, who is another undrafted free agent out of Florida, who he'd be competing with kind of for that fourth defensive end spot, right? Now, I'd say another interesting part of the dynamic I was talking about earlier is which of these guys, between Fano, who's about 6'5", 250, and Verse is going to take snaps at linebacker potentially too, especially if you're running like a three-man front. Say you're running like a 3-3-5. You know what I mean? You might want, one of them standing up. Does Fano have the versatility ability to do that? Cover, say, a running back in space. I don't know. Verse maybe a little bit more so because he plays some 3-4 defensive end for the Rams. But I know you do want Verse with his hand in the dirt, now that you are bringing them here in, a four-man front. So that's what we want to do primarily. Now we talk about the concern with that third linebacker, because I'm a defensive guy, man. I know ball. I don't just talk about quarterback, man. I'm a defensive guy. So my secondary is my thing, right? So we talk about corners and safeties. That's mainly where I make hay. But we talked a lot about, again, the corner position, the nickel position, safety position, but also too goes right along with that is very important, even though it's part of the front seven, is the linebacker position, right? We talked about how you got um Swessinger, and then you got Quincy Williams. But after that, you have a lot of uncertainty. So whether it's Easton Macarena Arnold, or whether it's Justin Jefferson, who you just drafted, or other undrafted free agents from past years like Winston Reed, for example, or Buki Watson, late round draft picks, really special team guys. A guy who I forgot about, but actually a little excited about. I was listening to another local Cleveland talk show, and they said, "Oh, Reed Carrico, don't know much about him." Well, Reed Carrico finished his season or career off at West Virginia, but he's an undrafted free agent who has yet to play in the NFL. But he did start off at Ohio State. One of the things about Reed Carrico is he does have that background or pedigree of having where he's competing, playing in big time college situations. Right, it's not like he went to Eastern Louisiana Tech State or middle directional Arkansas, right? So we'll see what he can do, or if he can stick around for the 53 at some point. Because again, we could certainly use a guy who could get snaps as a third or fourth linebacker. Now, God forbid you try to run a 4-4. Oh my God! Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I do like, for example, Easton Macarena Arnold. Hopefully I like what I see from Reed Carrico. But obviously the first two guys at linebacker, that's what's most important. You can run so many different combinations. We'll talk about that on different shows. Again, what Rudy will look to do. I love that I could say that what Rudy will look to do with this defense, right? Yeah, that's awesome. So last one. Carson Ryan, the tight end, right? The seventh round draft pick out of BYU. We're going to see basically if he can make the 53, because don't forget there is a log jam. We'll use that term a lot. We talk about roster fits, roster positioning for later lower spots, right, on the roster. A lot of roster jockeying at that point. Andrew Berry is somebody that will constantly go and churn the bottom of that roster like butter, right? He'll be whipping it like he's, you know what I mean, in the kitchen, in the whip it, kitchen whip it like it's stir fry. You know what I'm saying? That's how be doing it, turning the bottom of the roster like that 52nd, 53rd guy. Now, really, in all actuality, a lot of times those are like your log snapper, kicker, putter, and everything. However, when you talk about again guys that will contribute on special teams, Carson Ryan may or may not be somebody that can do that, but he will have to show that he can be an effective blocker as well as a pass catcher to maybe make the 53-man roster as, say, the fourth tight end. Don't forget, now it's looking like Fannin, Royer, Stoll, who we signed from the Saints. And then after that, again, it's not that those like Stoll is like a lock to make the roster or anything like that, but you see where that's three deep, and then that's where again Carson Ryan, like the seventh round, late round draft pick, will fall in, or there's still a couple other guys competing for that spot, like uh, uh Whiteheart. I think it's uh the guy, and Brendan Bates is another guy. I don't think Cannell's around anymore, but never know who might pop back up. Just like Dom Jones, he could pop back up. It's almost like a zombie flick sometime when guys come back, like Jamari Thrash, for example, who got cut. At some point last year, didn't was off the 53, but certainly back in the fold. That kind of thing does happen, especially with corners and depth pieces like that. Again, the guys that are 54 and 55th guys on the roster type of guys. But hey, man, I love bringing you this show. It's no like disrespect or nothing like that to other media members. It is basically though encouraging the independent space. Like I've been doing this for about 20 years, quiet as kept. You know what I mean? It ain't never necessarily been about a bag to me. What it is about, some really a lot of it's about the integrity of the journalism, right? So when I see that threatened in some ways, or I see it slanted to where, hey, it's like, why is this being covered this way? Like that whole Rex Ryan hot take, this part, man. Look, I can do the same thing to you. I'll come out like Tupac, hit him up. I hit him up, Rex Ryan, where you see, all right, no, we ain't gonna. Please stop. Please stop singing in the middle or at the end of shows. Okay. That's not what the people like. I think I tried to hit a high note last show, man. I messed up my new headsets. But on that note, y'all, I really love bringing you guys this show. I promise I will not sing, but I will. That's actually a lie. He like, I ain't lying. I ain't lying. But I'll take you guys' comments again. I gave you some numbers to hit me up at. Love talking the Browns with you. Recent moves, obviously, again, talking about the coverage. Believe half of what you hear and none of what you see, basically. But again, I will catch up to you guys really soon. Thank you again so much for joining and supporting the show. And yeah, I will definitely bring you some shows coming up here where we look at, like, again, roster predictions, and preseason's right around the corner. Starts in about a week and a half. So we'll definitely bring you some results there, and looking forward to preseason matchups. Don't forget the Browns do have preseason game coming up against the Bears, and then also the basically like the camp practices, the 1 day camp practice with the Bills, with the Buffalo Bills. So we might see if we can't get some extra footage from that. But thank you again so much for joining us. I know y'all miss me till next time. You see the Dragons gear mixed with the Browns. Go Browns! Y'all know what time it is. The big dog, Rudy Rouge, signing off. You know they know I'm a big dog. Take it easy. Have a good day. See y'all soon.